What's up, guys? It's Dwayne, back again for another video, back again for another reaction. And today is a great, wonderful day because it's a day that I'm going to be learning Swedish for the first time. I mean, I've learned a few words in Swedish. So learning Swedish in 30 days. How did he learn Swedish in 30 days? I need to know. Do you know why? Because I want to learn Swedish in 30 days. So when I go to Sweden, I can be speaking to you guys in Swedish. Without further ado, let's get into this reaction. Let's go.
Swedish. You know that language spoken by those attractive people in Scandinavia with roots to those friendly old Vikings? I started a 30-day challenge to learn Swedish, with the first video already out about the first 7 days of that language learning journey. Just as a recap, the goal is to learn Swedish as best as I can in the span of 30 days, with the goal of having a conversation in Swedish after 30 days with a Swedish native, Josephine, just as I tried to have at the end of the 7 days. At the end of the challenge, after I show you guys the conversation in Swedish, I'll also review my skill level and the methods I used to see what could have gone better and to maybe give some tips along the way there too. The reason why I started this challenge is explained in that first video, but it mostly has to do something with my name.
My name is Jeff.
As well as being inspired by self-dev YouTube superstar Nathaniel Drew. I myself have a Belgian-German background which already led me to speak 4 languages, being Dutch, German, French, and English. If you're not up to speed with everything so far and you would like to be, then I highly recommend watching that first video, since you can also clearly see the skill.
I think that... Oh, should what? It's okay. We can watch the first video another day. This is a better video. This is 30 days. But what I was going to say was, because he already speaks 4 languages, it should make it easier. He already has the aptitude to learn new languages. So it should make it easier for him to learn and acquire a new language. I think for someone who only speaks 1 language and is not used to learning other languages, I think it could be quite tricky learning. I think I have the aptitude for learning a language, but I still only speak 1 language. For me, it'll be quite tricky, even though I think I'm good at listening and hearing things and hearing the way they're pronounced and trying to emulate it and try to copy, which I think babies do. And if babies learn languages by mimicking, then I can do it too. I think that's the best way to learn a language. But we'll see. He's the expert, so let's see.
Skill level that I'm at after those first 7 days and with that first conversation that I had. Now, to pick up where we left off, I continue to struggle and work my way through this new language by using the methods I described in the 7-day video. That means using Google to translate words in simple sentences, to also put words in a document to read over. I'm also consulting grammar websites to get some basic understanding of grammar and answers for some grammatical questions I have. Something that came back several times, for example, is just generally understanding how the present and the past works and just the conjugation of some verbs. Because obviously, if you're trying to tell something about yourself that happened to you in the past, you need to be able to actually say it with a conjugated verb in the past tense. I also still use Duolingo on a daily basis just for some more lighthearted and playful ways of learning and revising stuff that I learned. The big one, of course, still is watching YouTube videos just to learn vocabulary, learn simple sentences, and immerse.
Okay. So he's doing a lot. He said he's using Google Translation. He's learning about different grammatical ways of speaking in Swedish. He's watching YouTube videos. He's really doing everything, right? He should really be, he looks like he's just like, I'm going to immerse myself in Swedish. Which, you know what? I think I've got some of that down because I listen to the Swedish language every single day, even though I still don't understand what you're fully saying, because I'm listening and hearing the way things are pronounced, the way the language sounds. I think that's already like the first step. So yeah, maybe I should just start learning.
Immerse myself a bit more in simple conversations held by Swedish natives. I was also meeting up with my teacher on italki several times for conversation sessions to practice speaking with an actual native speaker. I was also still using Anki flashcards to revise and learn new vocabulary and simple sentences. On top of that, as a fun little addition, I also still listen to some Swedish songs. All of these still work pretty well together. My favorite of this list is probably still italki, because you just get to speak with an actual Swedish native, a teacher, and you just learn how to speak the language by having conversations as best as you can. A fun little extra bonus that I also learned about when I was doing italki sessions with Fredrik, my teacher, was just, I was curious. I asked for how to curse in Swedish. So that's how I learned to say something like, "Vilket jävla svin du är." Just as one little example. Don't repeat this, of course. It's only for very special circumstances, if you feel the need to, because of...
That sounded very good. I'm not Swedish, but the way he said that just then, I was like, ooh, you sound a little bit Swedish.
certain circumstances in the universe. The most used one though, just like I said, is still YouTube. I spend quite a lot of time just watching YouTube whilst I ride my bike to learn vocabulary and just watching and listening to simple Swedish conversations. Now I also added 3 more methods to this list during my 30-day challenge. One is Audible and listening to a simple Swedish story audiobook, where a narrator goes over 5 different stories about 20 to 30 minutes each, as well as providing a list of vocabulary to go along with each chapter. I got this audiobook by using a free credit that I still had on my account, and I just listened to it while I was going on walks in between work. The second new extra method is Netflix. I started watching Madagascar in Swedish with Swedish subtitles whilst I was sitting on my bike during the 3rd week of the challenge. It doesn't account for a lot of time, but it was a nice little addition to change things up a bit and do that in a more entertaining way, I guess. Plus, I've been wanting to rewatch Madagascar for a while now.
I like to move it. You like to
Move it.
Third one is Bilingual app, which allows you to read news articles in the language that you're learning with audio, and where you also have this function where you can select words, add it to a glossary, so you can look over that glossary and just review and study those words at any given time. Now, I don't want to spend too much time talking about progress.
He's been doing a lot. From all that, it sounds like he's really been trying to completely immerse himself in Swedish everything. So, well done.
During those 30 days and just diving into like every single part of the process there. These methods speak for themselves quite easily, and it's just safe to say that I made slow and steady progress day after day. I had days where I was a bit less motivated and just a bit more of a lazy student, but on average I studied about 1 to 1.5 hours a day during the whole of the 30-day challenge. Now let's go over the main struggles, because this might be interesting for you if you're trying to learn Swedish or if you're about to start, or just with any language in general, to just get an idea of where potential pitfalls could be. Mainly, and that's not a big surprise, a problem for me was pronunciation. Kept coming back to that and just struggled to like say words, because Swedish is crazy for having insane words sometimes to pronounce. Just as an example, a simple word like nurse would be something like, let me read this now because I am still struggling with this word, for example. Sjuksköterska. Sjuksköterska. Yeah, it's not easy. Even something like 27, 27, which honestly almost sounds Mandarin. Apart from pronunciation, it's also just grammar mistakes, which makes sense. In the beginning, language is always hard in terms of like understanding conjugation, tenses, word order. My basis of vocabulary is also a bit of a crutch, but that's not an exceptional or unexpected one for that matter. It's normal that it takes some time to build vocabulary when you're learning a new language, and it's not really something that you can rush through. You can only learn so many words at any given day, and it's just a slow process of building and building and building some vocabulary and just like making slow and steady progress there to just stack on the words, basically. Language learning in general is also just not...
It just sounds like a lot of work to learn a language, and I think you also need an incentive, don't you? You have to have an incentive to learn a language. You can't just be like, oh, I'm just going to learn Spanish tomorrow. It's like, well, why are you learning Spanish? Are you going to Spain? Are you dating someone who's Spanish? Are you going to be using Spanish day to day with your work? And you need to have a reason, I think. Or are you very passionate about languages? That's a reason as well. But if you have no reason to learn a language, it's very difficult to stick to and to really dedicate the time to learn it. I guess you have to love the culture of the place that you're learning, and it's a lot.
Not something to rush. So you shouldn't expect to become super proficient in a very short amount of time. It takes time, and it also takes time for your brain to process things. Now, that's basically all I'm gonna say for now. Let's just dive into the results after 30 days of this challenge and using the methods that I described. Let's see what the conversation looks like with Josephine.
Hej, hur mår du?
Jag mår bra. Jag är lite trött. Hur mår du?
Jag mår bra. Jag är lite trött också, men allt är bra. Jag ser det på videor på YouTube.
Ja.
Kanske människor pratar rikssvenska, men kanske de pratar svenska från Malmö eller från norra Sverige.
Ja.
Så det är lite svårt. Men igen, om de pratar lite långsammare, det är okej för mig.
Ja. Jag ser att du har en ukulele i bakgrunden. Spelar du ukulele? Eller är det en gitarr?
Lite, ja.
Ja, bara.
Okej, super. Är det Din hobby?
Ja, ibland.
Ibland, okej. Ja,
För att
samma
spela-
för mig.
Ja, den hänger mest på väggen nu. Men jag spelar mest gitarr och piano.
Piano. Jag tycker om piano, men jag kan inte spela piano. Vilken typ av låtar spelar du?
Det är blandat. Lite ny musik och lite klassisk och så. Men jag måste lära mig läsa noter igen.
Läsa noter? Vad betyder läsa noter?
Läsa noter är, du vet, papper med...
Läsa... ja, okej. Jag förstår.
och spela efter det när man kollar.
Okej.
That's so cool. That's so cool. And you can tell he's thinking, so he's not fluent and he's very much like thinking and processing as he's saying the words. He's processing what she's saying. And it takes some time, but he's doing really well. I think he's doing well. Let me know if he's doing well. He sounds like he's doing well. He's just, you can tell he's not a fluent speaker, and you can hear slight bits of his accent here and there, but he's to me, someone who's been listening to you guys speak, he sounds pretty good. He's just very slow, and he's taking his time, which is good. Maybe I should do it. I'm jealous. I want to speak another language.
Trött också eftersom jag gjorde en cykelutmaning för 30 dagar. Jag gjorde 2500 kilometer.
Oj, på 30 dagar?
Ja, dag 30 var igår. Jag gjorde 200 kilometer för dag 30, så min ben gör ont. Ja, mina ben gör ont.
Vad har du cyklat då?
Här på min... jag har en home trainer.
Aha, okej, så inte utomhus?
Nej.
He said home trainer. Is there a way to say that in Swedish? Let me know.
Vi hade mycket snö, så
Snö.
Jaha.
det var inte möjligt. Kan du säga på engelska på 20 sekunder om min nivå är okej eller inte?
Ja, absolut.
Yes.
You have to have so much patience as a Swedish person to sit down and speak to someone whose first language isn't Swedish and they're learning, because you can tell he's speaking very slowly, and she's probably like, it can. I'm guessing it can be a bit boring for the person listening whose like first language is English. It's like if I was speaking to someone whose first language wasn't English and they weren't proficient in the language and they were speaking very slowly to I'll be like, come on. But she's very patient and she's being very nice, helping him learn how to have a conversation in Swedish.
Yeah, so if you want, just like, what do you think after 30 days? Was that okay as a Swedish native?
Yeah, I think I'm really impressed actually. I think the level is good, and you have a lot of vocabulary, and the pronunciation is good. Needs some working, but it's getting there.
That's great. Yeah, awesome.
So, good job, really.
Thank you. Thank you so much again for helping me. I really appreciate it. Yeah, that was it. I'm quite happy with how our conversation...
So I was right. I was kind of right. I thought it sounded pretty good, but like it needs some more work. He's speaking very slowly, and yeah. But if he continues, I think I think he'd need to probably like move to Sweden and kind of have to force himself to have conversations every day in Swedish, to then become like fluent. But I'm jealous. I'd love to be able to even speak like that. But when I listen to it, guys, it sounds, because I'm hearing Swedish every single day. I'm like, I could definitely take beginners lessons in Swedish and start to learn some. I don't know. Let me know in the comment section if you think I should learn some Swedish.
conversation went. I definitely still made quite a couple of mistakes, but in the end, it's about speaking a language in such a way that the other person understands you. I think I managed to do that and still cover a couple of different topics that I wanted to talk about. Josephine, thank you again for helping me out with this challenge. She also adjusted her level a bit to mine by just speaking a little slower than she usually does. But that's also quite normal if you're speaking to someone that's noticeably a beginner in the language that you're a native in. I just think in general that it goes to show that you can make quite significant progress in the span of 30 days if you just apply yourself for a bit. I spent about 50 to 60 hours of learning Swedish in that whole month, and I think I would categorize myself as being an A1 level on the way to becoming an A2 level. My vocabulary base is around 1,000 to 1,300 words, and I did 2 online tests as well afterwards to see what my level would be according to those tests, and they also categorized me as like A1, A2 level. So that kind of makes sense, and I'm very happy with that. In the span of 30 days, that means that I can already have like a couple of basic conversations and I just understand basic Swedish, and I could basically live there and survive without dying in case no one speaks English there. But obviously everyone speaks English in Sweden, but you know, just in that hypothetical.
And like if he goes to Sweden, I bet if he goes to Sweden and he tries to speak like that to someone who's Swedish and they're like, I bet you speak English, they'll just start speaking English to him. That's the problem. You probably need to get to a certain level of proficiency, or tell people in Sweden, oh, by the way, I'm trying to learn Swedish. Can you please speak Swedish to me? 'Cause it's not a country where people are not able to speak English. You guys can speak English incredibly well. That's the tricky thing. But if he continues and he perseveres with the language, he's all good, isn't he? He's going to do well. But yeah, he just needs to have an incentive. But I think if he stopped like learning Swedish, he'll lose quite a lot of that, a lot of the vocabulary.
Hypothetical case, I could survive. Now reviewing my methods. I think they worked reasonably well for me, the methods I described earlier, but that's because I like an unstructured approach personally. But I do, however, think that it would probably have been more efficient if I had a more structured approach. So if there's any tip that I can get out of this, or anything that I'm going to do moving forward, is just dive into it a bit more in a structured way, basically. For example, grammar, I ordered a booklet online that is about Swedish grammar, and I want to dive into that just in a more structured way so I can like build the foundations of this language a bit better and just not do all kinds of things and hit it from different angles, which also works and just like immerses yourself in the language, which is in the end a very good way of learning a language, just immersing yourself as much as possible. But there's this element of, you know, structured learning that is also still needed, I think. And I think my approach just generally missed a little bit of...
To a certain extent, I agree. I'd say, like, obviously I am fluent in English and English is my first language, and I have a level of grammar that is good enough. But I would say I'm not the best at grammar or understanding why I use certain words. You know, the understanding like, oh, why do I use this punctuation in my writing? Why do I do that? I don't know. I don't know. For a lot of it, I don't know. There's some terms I'm like, oh, what's a semicolon again? What's the comma? And I know what those are. But you know what I mean? Like, I think a lot, maybe the majority of why I'm fluent in English is immersion, is growing up around people speaking English, is learning from other people, and then the actual. Maybe it's the reading and the writing that is done in a classroom, but the actual verbal communication is, I think you learn literally 95% of your verbal communication just speaking with people and immersing yourself in the language and listening, whereas reading and writing, you need to do that in a classroom, just in my opinion. But yeah.
Bit of that, or didn't have enough of it anyways. Now at this point I'm just happy that I can see tangible, useful results already after 30 days, and there's just a whole new world of culture that has opened up for me, which has just the best part of it all. On that note, I want to thank you for watching, and I just want to ask you, like, if you're learning a language watching this video, what language is it? Is it Swedish? Is it something else? I would love to know, so let me know in the comments down below. Also, if you have ideas for other challenges I should try out or ideas that you come up with, definitely let me know in the comments too. And if I can fit it into my life, my work life as a videographer and running a video production company, as well as doing YouTube on the side, then I would definitely look into doing that. So just let me know in the comments. And yeah, just make sure to like the video, subscribe.
He's very disciplined to sit down and say, I'm going to learn Swedish for 30 days. I'm going to take a couple of hours out of my day to learn that language so that I can speak in Swedish. I think that's really disciplined. I'm jealous. I feel like I should be doing more. Maybe I should be learning a few languages. I don't know. But this has inspired me. It's inspired me to like be more disciplined in a lot of things, right? Just spending a couple days for 30 days, you'll see tangible differences in yourself. Well, that goes for anything in your life. And he's proof of that. And I don't think he's a genius. I don't think he would refer to himself as a genius. He's just worked hard to get to where he is. So kudos to him. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Until the next one, I will see you soon.